Frequently, when I have something on my mind but don't realize it, I dream about it. The other day when I woke up, I realized that Thomas had been in my dream. I saw him standing at the foot of my bed, waiting for me to notice him. And I knew immediately that he was my twin, who had been part of me for a long time, perhaps from the beginning of my faith journey, sometimes comfortably, sometimes not so comfortably. But when I looked directly at his face, it was my own I saw. He was more than my twin. He was me. We know him as Thomas Didymus, but that is already synonymous because Thomas means twin in Aramaic and Didymus means twin in Greek. He appears in the list of apostles in all 4 Gospels, but only John tells us anything about him. None of it is flattering. In 11:16, where Thomas senses the danger in going to Bethany at the death of Lazarus, and enthusiastically urges the others, "Let us also go and die with him." And in 14:5, at the beginning of the last discourse, where he dimly asks, "Master, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way?" And then there is the famous scene at the original ending of John's Gospel, today's reading. Thomas is kind of dim, but he is earnest, and Thomas is us. I read this passage, and I know him to be my twin. Isn't he also yours? He is called throughout history Doubting Thomas. What does it mean to doubt? From the Latin dubitare, to waver, and from an ancient root, duo, meaning, interestingly, double. What is a doubt? And is it the same as a question? If it is different, how is it different? There are doubters throughout the scriptures. They must be there for a reason. Their stories are there for us, aren't they? As we look back on our own faith journeys, we know we have had many questions, especially when middle school science seemed to clash with middle school catechism. Is there a God? In the post-Auschwitz world of racism, sexism, violence, and injustice, how can we not ask? Sometimes it is a scary place to be. But questioning, which in its Latin root means to seek, is necessary to grow. Sometimes hard for a parent to accept, having forgotten their own youthful questions, and that questioning, indicating a desire to seek and to grow further, enriches and matures that youthful faith. And hopefully we remain seekers throughout our lives. And we also had doubts. But faith, I think it is fair to say, is not stable but dynamic, growing and living. And doubt, that wavering, is thus necessary along the way. In our meeting with Thomas at the time of the last discourse, he had a question. How can we know the way? A seeker's question. After the resurrection, he was a person with a doubt, wavering as to the nature of the astonishing reality others spoke of, that Jesus was alive. And Jesus, gracious and merciful as always, gave him what he needed. And because of that gift, Thomas makes his complete act of faith. Thomas's confession, "My Lord and my God," concludes the gospel and serves to complete the titles given in chapter 1, teacher, prophet, Messiah, Son of God, King of Israel, and now, in Thomas's words, Lord and God. And Jesus has a gift for us too, the gift we need, the assurance that we are blessed because we have believed even though we have not seen. We may have doubted like Thomas, but we are still unconditionally loved by God, still invited to labor with God to build that post-Auschwitz, post-racism, post-violence world of justice and peace. God is not observable because God is pure spirit, but God's existence is known by traces in our lives and in our universe, by beauty, by revelation, and by the witness of others' faith, those traces which speak to us of God's love for us and for all. As we waver, we will also grow to a new place in that relationship of love. The letter to the Ephesians tells us that we, with our questions and our doubts, are even now being built together into a dwelling place of God in the Spirit. We who have not seen, but have believed. We are rooted in the faith of people like Thomas, who tradition says went on a very far journey to India to proclaim the good news, as well as in the faith and witness of so many others in our lives, and for whom today might be a good day to be grateful.